Pastor Roy Gearhart from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. You know, at the start of sports season, there are always lots of excited people trying out for the team. But after a few practices, there's always kind of a weeding out. There are always people that drop out before the season even gets started. I confess, back in ninth grade, I went out for football in that summer for the fall, and after one day of being yelled at by the coaches, I decided I didn't want to do that, and just didn't go back. I went back home and worked for my dad the rest of the summer. Now, I'm so glad, though, that when spring came, I decided to go out for the track team, and there I stuck to it. I made it through all those practices, built up some strengths, ran in those races, and stuck to it for the next 4 years. And I gotta say, there were lots of strengths and lots of things that I gained from that experience, and I'm so glad that I finished that course. It's the same thing in our spiritual life. There are lots of people that start off with all kinds of excitement and are just desiring so much to be able to follow after the Lord and be a part of all the things that God has promised. But there are many who really don't ever finish that course. Many who drop out, who decide that it would be easier to go back to wherever they came from rather than to continue going forward with God. There are many people who end up in that spot because they've only entered in kind of half-heartedly. They've only half-heartedly committed themselves to following after God. They'll try it, kind of like going out for the team, not with a passion, a commitment to get to that goal, but with a sense of, well, I'll try it and see if I like it. And many people live that way in following after the Lord. We see that with the people of God whenever they were being brought out of Egypt. Now, these people are being brought out of slavery. And you can't imagine that anyone would be rescued from slavery and then consider going back. And yet that is the concern that God has for his people right from the start. He says, I can't lead them up the main road because if they have a problem, they may just go back to Egypt. And it's like, no, you can't be that way. How could anyone be living with it in their minds that I could just go back? And yet this is in their heads. They are only half-heartedly following after God. And really in their heads, they're only halfway committed. Because even after God brought them through the Red Sea, every time they run into a problem, what do they talk about? Egypt. Well, back in Egypt, things were better. Back in Egypt, it wasn't as bad as this. We'd have been better off to just stay there if we were going to die out here. And so you see them really considering this whole idea that Egypt might just be better. They are double-minded. The book of James warns us that we cannot thrive. We can't go forward. We can't reach any good goals with God if we're double-minded. In fact, James tells us that we need to be people instead with a full heart of commitment. It says that we should look at challenges that come in our life with joy. That it's like, if you're having problems, then rejoice. Why? Because James says this is like the preseason workout, where you're going out there and you're working hard and you're struggling and you're huffing and puffing and it's tough. But he says you should think of that as joy because it's going to build perseverance in you. It's where you build your strength. You get the muscle to be able to, go out there and compete. And he says that perseverance will produce in you maturity. In the book of Romans, it very similarly says it in Romans 5 that whenever we're challenged, that it produces perseverance that will build our character. There's a strength, a maturing in our lives that Romans says will give you hope. See, James is saying that if you get this struggle under your belt, you'll be strong, you'll be mature, you'll have the skill now to compete. And instead of being double-minded, where you're like half in and half out, always ready to throw in the towel, you'll be ready to get in the game. You'll be strong to meet the challenges. And God is working in your life and in mine just like that. And yet there are so many people that, just like the Hebrew people, being delivered from slavery, they kept thinking about, maybe I could go back. And I've run into lots of people that they set out to follow Jesus, but then they'll say, well, I tried that church stuff and it just didn't work for me. I tried all that Jesus and, I just didn't see any benefit in it. Well, maybe you didn't gain because you didn't give your all. Maybe you were like those people trying to leave slavery who kept talking about it like it was something to go back to just in case. Maybe there was a fallback plan in your mind as well. And maybe there was something that you kept hanging on to instead of hanging on to Jesus alone. Let's go all in. Let's follow Jesus and win the prize, meet the goal, and get the victory. May God bless you today, and as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.